Good evening and welcome to another edition of Special Assignment. I'm your host, Ashraf Garda. Container ships move across the world and carry with them hundreds of millions of cargo containers with massive amounts of goods inside. But not everything is always as it seems. In tonight's show, we turn the spotlight on how lucrative criminal cargo, even potentially deadly goods, are trafficked and hidden inside these cargo containers and make its way to Africa's shores. This episode was produced by Stephen Schnee from the UN.
Look offshore at any port in the world and you can see the superhighway of international commerce. Container ships moving practically everything imaginable, transporting 90% of the world's cargo in giant vessels like these, some the size of a stadium. Inside the sea of look-alike containers could be anything from tires to T-shirts, Mercedes-Benz to medicines. Also hidden inside could be something sinister, illegal, maybe even deadly. Clandestine cocaine or heroin, fake medicines that could kill, even substances used in the production of weapons of mass destruction.
This is a huge market. We are talking of over $1 trillion of US dollars made annually by crime at large.
Pierre Lepac is a director at the United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime.
We live in a globalized world where everything keeps moving from one place to the other. And criminals have quickly identified that it is a beautiful market opportunity.
Some 500 million containers move across the globe each year. Less than 2% of these are ever physically inspected. Every day, criminal trafficking networks outsmart the system. Here, a precursor to methamphetamine veiled inside boxes of chili pepper. Street value, $70 million. Heroin hidden inside spices and in matchboxes from Pakistan. Hashish hidden behind a false container wall. Cocaine stashed in a drum of vegetable oil. In cooking stoves, even in pineapples. And this modern-day menace, centrifuges seized on a ship in 2004 en route from Malaysia to Libya, capable of enriching uranium.
We cannot afford to make a mistake. Every mistake that you are going to make when you deal with weapons of mass destruction, you will have, at the end of the day, thousands, hundreds of thousands who might be dying. So failure is not an option. Mistake is not an option.
This is a story about an intricate global crime web. The story of the international trafficking of clandestine goods and the bold and brave new battle to combat it. Teaming up on the front line of that fight is the World Customs Organization and the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC. Together, they launch an offensive, setting up operations in some 30 ports in 17 countries across the globe, from Panama to Pakistan, Togo to Turkmenistan, Guatemala to Ghana. Using a combination of the latest high-tech equipment, human intelligence, and good old-fashioned hands-on techniques, the Container Control Program, as it's known, is a powerful new weapon against these global threats.
We go out every time expecting to find something. That is always the feeling. You always go out believing.
Edmund Landy Tai, once a top cop with 16 years in Ghana's narcotics police, heads the Container Control Program here in Ghana.
Prince, if you can bring down.
He and colleagues team up with a large spectrum of law enforcement. Working together, Ghana's Narcotics Board, Customs, Port Police, and Harbors Authority, men and women experienced pros and new recruits alike. We followed Landy Tai and his team for a rare behind-the-scenes look at just how they work. The battle to track what's coming into their ports begins with what they call profiling, homing the manifests accompanying the containers.
We are looking for risk indicators, where the container is coming from, who is shipping it, which port is it coming from? Is it a first-time importer? Is it a port that we have come to know we usually will have contraband moving out of? And it helps us to select those consignments that we believe we could find something. Okay, what is it about?
HP toners.
When the team identifies a shipment of computer parts that just arrived from a country with a history of exporting counterfeit goods, they spring into action.
We believe they are counterfeit Hewlett-Packard toners. We'll look at it and see, but we are pretty sure they are counterfeits.
Landy Tai and the team study the hologram on one of the boxes to determine its authenticity.
The counterfeit. There is a way that this thing should change, but it must change up and down. When you turn it this way, this must be lighter and this must be darker. They've been able to perfect from the left to the right, but they've not been able to perfect from the down to the up.
It's a seizure worth thousands of US dollars.
It is exciting. Once you are able to make seizures, you know that you are on the right path, and you just need to do more to get more results.
Soon after, a container of machetes arrives to Ghana's port. Point of origin, Colombia, South America. The team is on high alert.
We'll go this way.
After the break, more than $1 billion worth of cocaine moved through Africa en route to European destinations.
West Africa has rapidly become a transit hub for narco-traffickers from South America. Seizures of cocaine have skyrocketed by more than 300% in less than a decade. Now, nearly 15% of all cocaine headed to Europe moves through Africa, a value of more than $1 billion.
West Africa is very close to the source country, Latin America. That is the new dimension of crime.
Yao Akrasi Sarpong, head of Ghana's narcotics board, warns that once the drugs enter the region, they spread in an instant.
Weak border controls, porous borders. You can drive and your vehicle will not be searched once.
Determined to stop drugs at the point of entry, the team is always on the hunt for shipments like the machetes from Colombia. And today, they take their search from hands-on to high-tech.
Please bring it back this way.
The entire container, loaded with hundreds of boxes of machetes, is inspected using a state-of-the-art X-ray scanner capable of penetrating 300 millimeters of steel. The team is able to see a clean image of the contents of this 20-foot container instantly on a screen.
The color is supposed to show any discrepancy in the image, and it's a comparison to what has been declared by the importer to see if it matches the declared item in the container.
The scanner confirms there are machetes inside, but still suspicious, the team unloads a number of the boxes, inspects them, and then weighs them, comparing the weight of the actual shipment to what's declared on the manifest. Even a few extra ounces could mean drugs are concealed somewhere in the shipment.
We just found out that some of the boxes are a bit heavier than the other. So we need to confirm physically why it is so.
They unload the machetes. Then inspect the handles to see if they were hollowed out, drugs hidden inside.
We check the wood, there is nothing concealed in it.
But just to be absolutely certain they haven't missed anything, they call for backup. A highly trained, staggeringly accurate canine team that can easily and quickly sniff out drugs and explosives hidden from sight, often saving valuable time. They're able to access hidden corners, smelling to see if anything is stashed in secret compartments. The dog signals an all clear. But before they leave, their handlers hide a small amount of cocaine for the dogs to find, to remind them of the scent for the next time. And if history is any indication, there will be a next time as global trade continues, and with it, ongoing risk. Yao Akrasi Sarpong from the Ghana Narcotics Board shows us this steel auto part in which, as part of a major haul, they detected a $5 million hidden cache of heroin.
You can see the heroin was here. And we had to cut through all of them. Here. This is even more dramatic here. This is how the heroin was. You can see that.
And then there's evidence rooms like this, filled floor to ceiling with hundreds of packages of seized drugs for cases awaiting trial. But the experts know criminals are always trying to stay one step ahead, using increasingly clever strategies to avoid detection by elaborately rerouting their goods from one port to another that may be considered safer.
The criminals are indeed outsmarting the system because they know that if they send a container directly from Colombia to Germany, it will be quickly identified as a risky container. So to minimize the risk, they will send it from Colombia to Chile, from Chile to Panama, from Panama to Ghana, from Ghana to Italy.
And criminals are always on the lookout for new opportunities. With drug penalties in most countries around the world steep, criminals are now turning to new, low-risk, high-profit opportunities. Trafficking in counterfeit medicines, where the penalty can be just $50 US for a first-time offense.
Minimum sentence for even 1 gram of marijuana, 1 gram of heroin, 1 gram of cocaine is 10 years in prison, hard labor. If you are caught with 50 tons of fake antibiotics, they are destroyed and you get a fine.
Which is a highly profitable crime. Organized crime networks are making 1.82 billion on a yearly basis just by selling fraudulent medicines, just for Southeast Asia and Africa. There is very few laws and regulations addressing this issue out in the developing countries. And we have to understand that the criminals in front of us have more and more a business approach.
In Ghana alone, it's a multi-million-dollar industry, with fraudulent antibiotics and anti-malaria medicines offering the biggest criminal opportunities here. They make their way from the ports into markets, pharmacies, even public hospitals. Devastating, as malaria kills a child in Africa every 30 seconds.
When we get sick in Ghana, the first thing you think of is malaria. That's the first.
In a moment, from counterfeit medication to weapons of mass destruction, criminal cargo streams through Africa's ports.
Landa.
33-year-old Joanna Opaku Dako, a manager in a pediatric hospital, knows malaria firsthand. She's had it, so has her husband, and her sister nearly died from it.
Let's go.
So Joanna immediately worried when her daughter Anna started running a very high fever just before her second birthday.
She wouldn't talk a lot, she would cry, she would cling to me. My mom decided to buy an anti-malarial.
Her mother bought it from a store in a nearby marketplace, but by the next night, Anna was worse.
Usually, when you take the anti-malarial course, by the second day, you should be fine. I mean, you should be not perfect, but almost fine. But then she was still running temperature. She was still warm.
Days passed. Still, Joanna kept hoping the medicine would work, but it wasn't. By the 5th day, they rushed her to the hospital.
I told the doctor everything, and then he was saying you actually cannot tell the difference between the fake anti-malaria and the real one. He said, these days you cannot tell. These days you cannot tell.
Anna received anti-malaria medication from the hospital and was better within days. Today, she's singing and playing. It wasn't long before Joanna's relief turned to anger.
Because they are evil people, all for money, for quick money. It's painful. It's very, very painful. I mean, I thought I was administering health and healing to my daughter, apparently. It was fake, for heaven's sake.
And it can be deadly. It's estimated that in some African countries, as much as 30% of all the medicine making its way onto the market may be fake, denying people potentially life-saving treatment.
The magnitude of the counterfeit, substandard, fake, and falsified medicines problem in Africa in general, in Ghana in particular, is gargantuan. It's giant, it's huge, and we could say that in some cases unprecedented.
Dr. Alex Dodo is director of the World Health Organization, WHO's Center for Advocacy and Training in Pharmacovigilance at the University of Ghana Medical School.
Patients quite often have no place to buy medicines. Half the landmass of Ghana has no pharmacy. So if someone comes with a bag or anything on his head supplying medicines, you are lucky or happy to get a medicine. And all these make it easy for people with criminal minds to get their products into the system.
And part of getting their products into the system means counterfeiters have to do everything possible to ensure that their goods look real.
There are some which are so identical that you sometimes show it to the original manufacturer, and they cannot tell the difference between their products and the falsified ones.
Even Thomas Amedzro, director of Ghana's Food and Drug Board, the agency charged with monitoring medicines, has trouble detecting the difference. Just look at this confiscated box of the antibiotic Augmentin.
We have some antibiotics. One is a genuine product, one is a fake medicine. It doesn't contain any active ingredient. This is the fake antibiotic. This is the genuine one.
But the experts know that the most frightening threat of all might not be the trafficking of products for mass consumption, like medicines or illegal drugs, but the trafficking of ingredients for weapons of mass destruction.
That's where it is really risky, because criminals do it for money. Terrorists do it for ideas. Because until their death, they will believe that they're right.
Radiological, biological, and chemical weapons, like the sarin gas used in an attack in the Tokyo metro that killed 12 and injured thousands, are a growing concern. Even a small amount of these weapons can kill thousands.
Since September 11th, hazardous materials attract a lot of attention worldwide. Since the ex-USSR disappeared, you have a lot of radiological materials which are on the black market. This is a clear risk. A dirty bomb is a clear risk.
And so is smuggling ingredients in to create explosives for roadside bombs and suicide vests. Authorities are on high alert in countries considered a front line for terrorism.
So the screening has to be done in a more proper/aggressive way.
They hunt for everything from small arms and light weapons to chemicals and processing equipment to machine tools and electronic equipment. Particularly challenging are items with a dual use, things that are legitimate commercial products, but in the wrong hands can be used or modified to make something very deadly. And make no mistake, authorities say, the terrorists are already one step ahead, moving deadly ingredients from one port to another to avoid detection.
The international community cannot let those kind of dangerous hazardous material go and travel freely. We have to make sure that we are developing the proper tools, the proper equipment, the proper material, the proper knowledge, the proper training to ensure that we can detect them as early as possible. So it's not about only training the people in Karachi or the people in New York, it's about also training the people who might be on the route.
And so, highly specialized multinational trainings on weapons of mass destruction are being held around the world, like this one in Senegal.
We talk about chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear weapons.
Participants port teams from all over West Africa, including Ghana's own team.
You will not find a nuclear bomb probably in a container, but you will find some material, some machines, some electronics, some equipment that could be used for that purpose. For example, to make uranium for a bomb.
An essential part of training to uncover such things? Combing through suspect cargo. Something this group does when discovering this container, which started out in Tunisia and ended up here in the port of Senegal on a different vessel.
And we've just put aside a container that was profiled by the port control units of Dakar because they found some risk criteria that tell them that maybe it's worth looking at.
After checking a sample, it turns out this time the material was only plaster. It's this kind of vigilance that's required 100% of the time.
I see it just as a beginning. You also have to be concerned about what can be next. Because this game, this dirty game of hide and seek is happening every day. Yes, we have to be proactive. Yes, we have to be smarter than the criminal. You also have to be concerned about, okay, and next? What can be next?
They say there's no room to rest in the global fight against trafficking. Livelihoods and lives depend on it.
Now, do share your comments on tonight's story, and you can do so via three ways. That's Special Assignment's Twitter platform, our official Special Assignment Facebook page, or you can email us at truth@sabc.co.za. Well, lastly, I've picked out two comments from last week's show on the mental rights abuses of the mentally ill. Ray Harkinson Facebooked, "So few are doing so much to help the many struggling with mental illness." And Glenn Rapatlelo tweeted, "We cannot turn a blind eye on the abuse suffered by the mentally ill. They are our brothers and sisters. They are the same as you and me." Well, that's it for tonight. Join us again next week when we point out the issues that matter.